Hey everyone, I'm Chef Leroy and welcome to my cozy kitchen. So today I'm going to show you how to make turkey meatballs. Now what's so special about turkey meatballs? Well, not a lot, but I'm making mine with quinoa instead of a breadcrumb. Gluten-free, but I really like the flavor of quinoa. I think it tastes really good with the meatballs, okay? So we're gonna make turkey meatballs with quinoa. So let's get after it. Okay guys, let me show you a few items you'll need to do your turkey meatballs. You'll need a small saute pan. You're gonna need a mixing bowl, a pot that you can put a cover on top. Okay, that's about a 2-quart pot. A bowl and a fork to whip your eggs, some minor things. And now let me just show you some of the ingredients that I'll be working with today. Okay, so first of all, I've got some ground turkey. It's 93% lean, 7% fat, okay? I've got 3 pounds of turkey. All right, so let's set that aside. We're gonna need a little bit of olive oil, okay? I've got 1 sweet bell pepper. This is an orange pepper. It doesn't matter what color you use. Now, here's the other thing. I've got some onion here, okay? So I got 1/4 of a yellow onion, and I've got a green onion. I'm just gonna use this up. Does it really matter in the meatball? No, not exactly, but it'll add some nice color to it, okay? So we're gonna use that. We're gonna need some eggs, okay? So my rule of thumb is 1 egg per pound. That's how I do it. We're gonna use some black pepper, and then I've got some herbs in a bowl here. I've got thyme, oregano, and basil, okay? I've got some salt. We'll probably have to add a little bit of salt to our mix. And then I've got minced garlic. And I picked up this 6-blend cheese. Now this is Cub's sort of name brand product. And I'll tell you what cheese is in here. We have mozzarella, provolone, Asiago, Parmesan, Romano, and Fontina cheese, okay? So we're gonna add that to our meatballs as well. And then we have quinoa, okay? So I've got 1 cup of quinoa, and I've got 2 cups of water. So before we can do anything, we want to get our quinoa going so we can cool it down. It needs to be cooled all the way down before you mix it in with your meat, okay? So let's get after that. I'll show you how to get the quinoa started on the stove. Let's go ahead and add our water. Quinoa. Start her up, kick it on high. Let's mix that quinoa into the water. We're going to bring it up to a nice hard boil, reduce it down to a simmer, low simmer. We'll cover it. And we're basically gonna cook this down until that water is completely absorbed into the quinoa. So while this is working, we're gonna work on our vegetables. Now before I start cutting vegetables, I'm going to add a teaspoon of olive oil to my saute pan. So we're just gonna throw those vegetables right into the saute pan. So 1 teaspoon. Let's cut that pepper in half, just like so. Pull the seeds. Okay, and we're gonna cut these really small this time. So this pepper, you wanna cut it up really nice in a small dice, okay? Now I just see that my quinoa is up to a boil here, so let me put a cover on that. All right, we just dropped that down to a medium. I'll show you in a minute here. Let's just go ahead and get this vegetable cut up. Okay, a nice small dice, okay? I'll show you what that looks like. Just like so. You can see my fingers there. So throw that right in your pan. You're going to make it a nice thin strips like so. So therefore you can get a nice dice, a nice small dice I should say. And Louis wants a piece. Here you go, boy. Okay, onion. Same thing, nice and small. And just like so, okay? That's it. Go ahead and throw that in your pan. And green onion. Just cut it really small. Okay, like I said, that green onion will give it a nice color, and also it is about the same equivalent of another 1/4 of an onion. So I would be technically using a 1/2 of a yellow onion, okay? Now we're going to add a teaspoon of minced garlic, just like so. And there you go. there's your veg. Let's get those on the stove. Right, now I'll show you the quinoa. You can see this. It already had cooked to the top, so I had to reduce it down a little bit more. So just be careful because it can boil out. So I've got that down pretty low, probably less than a medium low, okay? And then just let that cover stay on there until the quinoa has absorbed all your liquid. All right. Okay guys, I have my veg on the stove. Turn it up to a nice medium-high temperature. And I'm also going to add my dry seasoning to this, okay? So again, this is oregano, thyme, and basil. Just mix them in. All right, just let them cook. Okay, we're back at the stove. We're going to check our quinoa. I'm going to cover up. And there you look at that. That's beautiful. Exactly what it should look like. So if you can look here closely, I don't know if you can see it really well on camera, but there's this, they get this little threads that come off of them a little bit. That's when you know your quinoa is ready to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the stove off, keep my cover on it, and I'm just going to let it rest with the cover on. Okay, that'll help absorb any other extra additional liquid left in there. And my vegetables are looking pretty good here. And again, I've been cooking this on like about a medium-high heat. You don't want to cook them too hot. You don't want to burn them. Okay, back to the veg, and everything's looking really good. You can see there. I'm going to turn the stove off. And what I'll do, to help cool down quicker, I'm going to put them on a plate. Okay. Just pull the vegetables right out of that pan. Because it'll take quite a while for this to cool down if you keep it in the pan, so you don't want to do that. And I'll tuck it in my fridge for a little bit to cool them down quicker. Just put a nice thin layer across the plate like that, and they'll cool down very quickly. Okay, now I'm back to the quinoa, so I'll pull my cover off. And it's done exactly what I said. So you let it rest a little bit, and then it dried out. So there you go, okay? Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my quinoa on the tray, but I want to check to see how much quinoa, 1 cup. Generally it's like rice, everything doubles, right? So there's 1 cup. Two cup. And it looks to me like we're going to have about 3.5 cups. Looks like pretty much what it is. And honestly, I probably would use 1 cup per pound, but because I have this little bit left, I'm going to go ahead and use the whole thing. All right, so 3 pounds of turkey, 1 cup quinoa, 2 cups of water. I think that's going to be perfect. All right, just thin that out on your tray like I'm doing here, and pop it in your refrigerator. There you go, guys. Okay, guys, while your quinoa and your vegetables are cooling down, what can you do? Go ahead and get your 3 eggs in your bowl. Give it a whip. And one of the reasons I like to put my eggs in a separate bowl than everything else is because you can catch pieces of eggshell in there, okay? Which I just did. And we are going to go ahead and get our turkey in our bowl and get that ready, okay? I've got a plastic glove here. If you don't have those, you'll have to either wash your hands really well and use your bare hand, or you'll have to use a spatula or a heavy spoon to mix your meat. I strongly suggest using gloves, okay? Okay guys, again, I've got 3 pounds of ground turkey. Okay, this is a 93% lean, 7% fat, okay? Most of the time turkey's pretty lean. That's why I like doing turkey meatballs. Go ahead and throw your turkey into your bowl. Make sure you pull that little piece of paper off. Don't want to mix that in there with the turkey. Okay guys, make sure that you take your turkey out a little bit early so it's not extremely cold. Let it kind of warm up closer to room temperature. Okay, it'll be a lot easier to mix it. All right, let's go ahead and throw the egg in there. Again, that's 3 eggs. All right, I'm going to add salt to it, okay? So I'm going to use my sea salt that I have, and I'm going to use 3 teaspoons of salt. I don't really have any sodium in here, so other than a little bit of the cheese that we're going to add. So 3 teaspoons of salt. Because there was nothing in the quinoa and there was nothing in the vegetables other than garlic and the seasonings. Okay, we're going to do about 20 cranks or so. Okay, now if you don't have a pepper mill, you can use ground black pepper. I would probably use about a half teaspoon, and that's about it in here. If you want a little more pepper, go ahead and throw it in, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and add some of the cheese. Okay, so this is an 8-ounce pack. I'm gonna use about half the pack. Let's do about 4 ounces. 4 ounces of cheese. This stuff is really nice. Nice fine feather shred, look at that. Okay. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and grab those other items from our refrigerator and get them in. All right, let's go ahead and put the quinoa in there. The best part about this tray that I just used with the foil on it, I will make my meatballs on the same tray. Go ahead and put your vegetables in there, like so. Okay, and mix. All right, you're gonna mix it until everything is well mixed in, okay? And you'll feel the meatball mix start to get tacky. That's what you want, okay? That means everything's mixed in really well. And there you have it. Meatball mix. All right, now what I like to do is I like to let my meatball mix rest in the refrigerator overnight, okay? So I'm gonna throw some plastic wrap on this. Okay guys, Chef Leroy back, and it is day 2 of our meatball cooking day. All right, so turkey meatballs with quinoa. So let me show you how to roll those balls and get them in your oven. Okay guys, so I've got my tray here. That was the same tray that I used to put my quinoa to cool. I'm gonna get some rubber gloves on. Okay, just like so. If you don't have rubber gloves, just wash your hands really well, use your bare hands. If you have a scoop, that works really good too. Otherwise, we're just gonna make some meatballs here, okay? So these are gonna be about a 2-ounce meatball, and they're about the size of an actual golf ball. You can make them smaller if you choose. I'm making mine about the size of a golf ball. Now, if you have too much meat here, it will not fit on this tray, but you can just freeze the raw meat as well. Okay, there you have it. So I have 20 meatballs on here. They're all basically about the size of a golf ball. I have them on a tray lined with foil. If you don't have foil on there, at least make sure that you spray your pan down with some pan release or some kind of oil. Otherwise, they'll kind of stick to it, okay? I like to use foil. It just really saves a lot of time cleaning at the end, okay? So this is 2.5 ounces. So they look like they're all gonna be anywhere between a 2.5 ounce to 3 ounce meatball, okay? All right, so let's get these in the oven, all right? So I've got my oven preheated to 325, and I'm going to cook them for 20 minutes. Okay, my toaster oven is just about to go off. I've got my thermometer here, so we're gonna check those meatballs. Okay, pull your tray out. Now they look pretty light in color, right? And that's because I'm not baking them too hard. Let's go ahead and check the internal temperature. Again, I had 325 for 20 minutes. So this one here is looking at about 130 degrees. Check one here. Okay, that's just a little bit warmer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rotate the pan. I don't want to cook them too long because I'm going to put some of them in my sauce, okay? But we're going to go ahead and close the oven. And we're gonna go ahead and start it back up. And I'm gonna turn the time down to 15 minutes. Let's let them cook. Okay, my timer is just about to go off for my meatballs. And that's it. All right, so additional 15 minutes. So total cook time, 35 minutes. Let's go ahead and check the meatballs temperature here. And they are at 170, which is perfect, okay? I don't want to cook them any longer than that. Okay, I'll remove them from my toaster oven and I'll let them rest. So I'm going to show you a very simple, easy to make sauce for your cooked meatballs, okay? I've got a pan that I'm going to put the meatballs in, put my sauce in, and let them simmer in that sauce a little bit before we eat, okay? I'm also making that with zoodles, which I have my little machine over here. I'm going to make some zoodles as well. So a couple things you'll need to make the sauce. All right, you're going to need a saute pan. You're going to need your blender. I've got a bullet, okay? This is the NutriBullet. And then as far as products, I'm going to use mushrooms. I'm going to use a sweet yellow pepper, a red onion. I've got some fresh basil. This is 0.75 of an ounce or 3/4 of an ounce. A 24.5 ounce jar of Moody tomato puree, and then we need some garlic, okay? All right, so let me show you how to put this all together. All right, the first step is to get your mushrooms in a saute pan. Stove turned on high. All right, now this is just shy of 8 ounces of mushrooms. I used some of it for breakfast, so I'm gonna throw those in there. That's what you just use your things up as you go, right? So I don't have any oil in the pan. I like to cook my mushrooms without the oil. Okay, so let's get those started and then we'll cut the vegetables up. All right, let's go ahead and cut that yellow pepper in half. Pull the seeds. Now for this recipe, you do not need to cut these small because we're going to put them into a blender. So I'm going to leave them a little bit on the larger side so you don't have to go through all that meticulous chopping. It's kind of like a bit of a rough chop, and I'll show you what that looks like. Just like that, okay? Comes Chef Louis. Chef Louis is in the kitchen. Hey, what's up, Louis? You want a piece of pepper? Can you see him on screen there? Oh, maybe not. Here, let's go this way. Up. Come on. Here you go. Okay, good job. So I'm using a full yellow pepper. Do you need to use yellow pepper? No, you can use red, orange. You can use green if you like as well. All right, let's cut some of this red onion, okay? Now for this recipe, I'm only going to use 1/4 of this red onion. So this nice medium-sized red onion. Cut your onion in half, peel the skin off. Again, you don't need to be so meticulous about cutting it in special ways. Just go ahead and cut it through like this, and just like so, okay? And there's your vegetable. Okay, now the next thing is we're going to use our blender container. I'm going to throw my basil right into the container. Now, I don't want all the big stem, so make sure you pull the leaves off your stems, okay? Just like so. So you don't want that big piece. Stems are bitter tasting. There you go. Okay, so set that aside. We're gonna put this into a container so we can transfer it to our pan. Okay, mushrooms are cooking nicely. So I've got my garlic sitting here, I've got my vegetables right here, and then one other ingredient I probably should have mentioned. I'm going to use a tablespoon of olive oil as well, okay? So like I said, really simple sauce. So let those mushrooms cook up nicely. Just get a nice aroma without the oil to start with. Let them seal up a little bit. So it's perfect right there. So let's go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Okay, just like so. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of garlic, some minced garlic. Okay, and then throw in your peppers and onions. And now we're just going to let this cook down until the onions become nice and clear and the peppers are nice and soft, okay? Okay, they look beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my stove off. And before I make my sauce, I'll let these cool down a little bit closer to room temperature. I don't want to put a real hot item into my blender. And we'll get everything blended together, and I'll show you that next step, okay? Okay, I've got my blender set up. Again, I've got the NutriBullet. I put the vegetables into the container first. Hopefully you can see that okay. Sorry, it's a little... Slowly add your vegetables that you cooked into your blender bottle. Okay, again, I let these cool down to about room temperature. All right, now let's go ahead and put the sauce in there. All right, I want all that out of that bottle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add water to it. About a quarter cup of warm water will do the trick. Shake it up and pour it in. There you go, nice clean jar. Okay. Next step, let's put the blade on top. Okay, tighten it down. Now again, you don't want everything too warm in here because it makes it really difficult. First of all, it causes pressure in here and it'll be really tough to get the container apart, number one. It'll be hard to get the blade back off. And also it can pop on you so you can get sauce all over the place. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and set that on our blender. Okay, so if you have one of these NutriBullets, or they call it the Magic Bullet, they're really loud, but they blend really well. You can use a regular blender as well. This will make a really smooth sauce. All right, so let's kick it on. All right, like I said, it's pretty loud. Now you have what I call an easy peasy tomato sauce, all right? So let's pull that off. Let's give it a little taste here. That's good. All right, let's go ahead and get that in the pan with some of those meatballs. We're gonna let them simmer. Okay, got a pair of tongs out here. I'm gonna put the meatballs in the pan first, okay? Okay, go ahead and stack them in there nicely. This is just gonna add so much more flavor to the meatballs. They're actually ready to go right now to eat, so it's not a problem, but I like this step. Okay, let's go ahead and add that sauce to it. And there you have it. Just kick on your stove. Just let them simmer nice and slow. Okay, I put a cover on top, just kind of half tilted off to the side. And we're just gonna let these cook nice and slow, all right? Now, do you need to use this step? No, you don't. The meatballs are already ready to go. You could eat them right away. So we're just gonna let this cook. I'll show you the whole complete thing when everything is ready. Okay guys, I'm gonna do a recap on our quinoa turkey meatballs, okay? So again, I started out with 3 pounds of ground turkey, 1 cup quinoa, 2 cups of water, brought it to a boil, reduced it to a simmer, cooked it until all the liquid was completely absorbed into the quinoa. I let that cool down. Then I did my vegetable mix, okay? So in that I had 1 teaspoon of olive oil, a teaspoon of minced garlic, half of a yellow onion. I had 1 each of a sweet bell pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of dry thyme, half teaspoon of dry oregano, 1 teaspoon of dry basil, and then I sauteed all that together. If you remember also with my onion, usually I would use a half of a yellow onion, but I didn't have all of that. I had 1/4 of a yellow onion, so I used green onion to get the rest of that half of an onion. Okay, worked out great. I think the meatballs look good. All right, we got all that cooled down. The quinoa and the vegetable mix was cooled. We added it to a bowl with the 3 pounds of turkey. I did 3 eggs, which I whipped in a separate bowl. Always do that so you can make sure your shells don't get in there. Added 4 ounces of a blended cheese mix. That's optional. 20 cranks of black pepper, and I used 3 teaspoons of salt. Okay, mixed everything together really well. And then I left it in my refrigerator overnight. Now that step you can avoid if you want. I like to let the meat kind of set up over a day, but you can use that meat within 4 to 6 hours. I would probably wait about 6 hours roughly. Just let everything get tightened up again because you've had it basically up to about room temperature. So I highly recommend that, okay? Then the next step was to roll the meatballs. I rolled my meatballs anywhere between a 2.5 to 3 ounce meatball, about the size of a golf ball, put them on a tray and baked them. So I did it at 325. You could cook them at 350. I just like to cook them a little bit slower. They keep a little bit moisture that way. And then the total cook time should be about 35 minutes, okay? And they're about 170 degrees, which is perfect, okay? Next thing I did was I put them in a pan. Easy peasy tomato sauce. You gotta try that. Okay, now that's not a step that you have to use, but I did that for my meal tonight, okay? Because I'm doing zoodles with basil pesto, which is right here. I've got my zoodles here, a little bit of red onion. I'm gonna saute that off with some olive oil, and then we're gonna throw everything together, and I'll show you what that looks like at the end of all of this. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know there's a lot of context to it, but it's actually a pretty easy item to make. And also it's gluten-free. So if you have a problem with gluten, use quinoa. Otherwise, give me some thumbs up if you liked the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, ding, 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 ding. Otherwise, you guys have a great day. Chef Leroy and out. Okay guys, so again, part of my meal today is also using zoodles, all right? So I've got 2 nice large zucchini. I've already washed them. And then I've got my little spiral machine here, okay? So let me show you how to make zoodles. Now, you can buy zoodles already ready to go in the store. They have them in most grocery stores. If you go into the deli area, they have so much stuff already prepped. But what's the fun in that, guys? And you know what? This machine can do a lot of other things too. I just usually use it mostly for making zoodles. All right, so let's show you how it works. All right, so you're gonna take your zucchini and place it onto your machine. I'll show you the front view of it there. Okay, and then it's got a little pusher part on the back. And you just start spinning it through there. Okay, and you'll see how they come off just like a noodle. What I like to do is I do a couple spins and then I pull them off. So that way you don't have really too long of ones, like even longer than a spaghetti, okay? So that's what I do with that, okay? Just keep going. It's like that. And my sous chef Louis, where'd you go? You want a piece of zucchini? He loves zucchini. I'll give him a piece of this here. This is that inner part that comes through there. There you go. Zoodles. That little piece there. If you don't have your sous chef Louis like I do, to give him a little chomp of zucchini, which he loves, you can blend this with your vegetables and your tomato sauce for your zoodles. Okay, again, take your zucchini. There's a little metal piece right on here. You push it up to that. Put your pusher into your end of your zucchini. I cut the stem end off. I leave the other end on there. I don't cut that off. Then turn, okay? And then you pull your zoodles off, and I've got a bowl right here. I'm just gonna throw them right in there. Or let them all go onto, I've got a tray right there, or you can use a plate. So, but you just wanna zip it through there a couple cranks and then make sure you take that off. Otherwise they're gonna be a lot longer than spaghetti noodles. Awesome, huh? And it doesn't take very long to do this. It's very quick. And then what you'll do is you will saute them off with a little bit of oil. I like to throw a little bit of red onion in with them. And I'm gonna use pesto with mine. I made some pesto a while back that I put in jars after vacuum sealing with my Avid Armor chamber vacuum sealer. And I was looking at the pesto the other day and it's already been in there for several weeks and it looks beautiful. Still nice and green. Okay, so there you go. Very easy to do. Just get you one of these little machines. They have many different varieties out there on the market. I like this crank style one. They also have automated ones too, but yeah, these will work out really nice, okay? And just be really careful, the blades are extremely sharp, all right? So then I just throw all my zoodles into a bowl and they're ready for my next step, which would be to saute them for my dinner, okay? So I'm just gonna set those aside.